These are Canon's most recent SLR-like point-and-shoot cameras, the PowerShot SX40 HS and the new PowerShot SX50 HS. These two cameras offer a multitude of features and flexibility in a single body. So what has changed with this remodeled version of a very versatile camera? Even though the SX50 is the most drastic update in Canon's high-end point-and-shoot lineup, there are many similarities between the SX40 and the SX50. First of all, they have the same Digic 5 image processor, the same 12.1 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor, and the same video capabilities, including the 240 frames per second slow motion video. Lens hood and filter capabilities are shared between these two cameras, and a shutter speed range of 1/3200th to 15 seconds are also commonalities. So what's new? First, and most notably, is the new body. It seems like a smaller version of Canon's entry-level EOS cameras, with a deeper hand grip when compared to the SX40. The body material is now a matte plastic, instead of the semi-smooth body of the SX40. However, even though they are both plastic, the SX50 feels a tad more plasticky, almost as if the body material is thinner. The battery door has been updated as well, now with a small release clip. Some may find this good, while others may find it fiddly. One problem that persists with the SX50, as well as nearly all point-and-shoots, is that the battery door is obstructed when there is a tripod mounted to the camera. The SX50 has a larger screen now, 2.8 inches to be exact, which is a whole 0.1 inches larger than the 2.7-inch display that the SX40 had. While the pixel count has been raised from 230,000 pixels to 461,000 pixels, there isn't a huge difference in screen quality. The electronic viewfinder in the SX50 doesn't appear to have been updated since the SX40, because it still has a low pixel count and is still slightly distorted. Button arrangement has also changed. The greatest improvement in button layout with the SX50 is the movement of the power button from the right of the mode dial to the left. The SX40's main power button was very easy to accidentally push while holding it, and the SX50 doesn't have this problem. However, some button rearrangements seem a bit unnecessary, one of which being that the playback button and the video record button have swapped places. If you are new to Canon's point-and-shoot cameras, this won't be a very big change, but those who use the previous bridge cameras from Canon may find themselves accidentally going into playback mode when they want to record a video. The other change is the swapping of positions of the ISO and self-timer buttons on the directional pad. This is a change that nearly anyone who has used a PowerShot camera will struggle with, as these are buttons that are used very commonly. But it's not all bad, as the zoom assist button has been moved to the side of the lens. There is also a new fine zoom button next to it. This button is handy if you want a perfect focal length in a picture. A more subtle change is that the Spinny Dial around the directional pad is more flush with the camera body and now ticks to certain angles when you rotate it. While the clickiness is helpful in menus, it makes manual focusing much harder, not to mention the noise it would create in video. Buttons aside, how quick are these cameras? Well, the continuous burst mode of the SX40 and SX50 are pretty much identical. The major speed difference among these two cameras is the autofocus speed and shutter lag. Speaking from a slight bit of experience, the focus of the SX40 is quick for a point-and-shoot camera, but the SX50's autofocus feels like a DSLR. At wide angle, it snaps to focus whenever you push the button almost instantly, and at full telephoto, which is where autofocus is slow, it speeds past the SX40's autofocus. It seems with the lens update, the ultrasonic motors of the focus system have a bit more oomph than the SX40. The same goes with the lens zoom, as it can go to full telephoto and back very quickly when compared to the SX40. The fast zoom can make it hard to frame a shot, but that's why Canon decided to add the fine focus button to the lens. This lens has also been improved from an 840mm equivalent focal length to a 1200mm equivalent, which is a huge change, right? Well, not really. This is what the difference looks like. Yeah, it's a little bit, but that's not what you'd expect from the difference between 35 times and 50 times optical zoom. One very important thing about the lens is the aperture. The SX40 at the wide end had an aperture of up to 2.7, which is pretty average for a point-and-shoot camera, but the added zoom of the SX50 has decreased that number to a measly f3.4. Now, this roughly 2/3 stop difference may not seem like much, but in low light situations, you need all the light you can get. ISO range has also increased with the new SX50, with a range of ISO 80 to ISO 6400, with more fine ISO values than the SX40. But as far as noise goes, there isn't much until ISO 800, with some slight detail smudging. But that smudging increases up to ISO 1600, where the pictures are somewhat usable. But at ISO 3200, there is so much detail smudging that it's almost not worth it. There is ISO 6400 capabilities with the SX50, but they're almost not worth it with how much smudging there is. Now, because this is a new lens on the SX50, a sharpness test is due. We did one at telephoto with both cameras. What I saw was a slightly more apparent color aberration on the SX50, but that's more pixel pinching than anything else, and lighting could have changed that because it was outside and there were clouds. Of course, you want bokeh with your camera too. So which one delivers the goods? Well, they make noticeable bokeh when shooting macro or at full telephoto, but not much else. Whenever they do have bokeh, they both have circular bokeh bowls with a slight rim around them. But differences in the quality of bokeh between the two are so unnoticeable that the bokeh looks almost identical. Overall, no camera seemed to have better lens quality than the other. Another useful feature these cameras both have is their image filters. One that the SX50 adds is a very useful HDR mode, which takes 3 shots at different exposures and merges them together for a more dynamic range for detail in highlights and shadows. So what does this all mean? Which one should you buy? Well, it all depends on what you need. While the button placement and super fast autofocus of the SX50 are very appealing, the maximum aperture of f3.4 and the slightly cheaper body are not. These are both great cameras for the price, and can get you introduced into photography very easily. Both have beginner-friendly controls and full manual control for an advanced user. No matter which camera you choose, you will be getting a camera that will last you for years to come.